Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Street Tales. This one's going to be just me and Mo. It's been a minute. Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. Yeah, it has been a minute. We had a little summer hiatus, I felt like, because we had stuff going on, and like it was good, big stuff too that we needed to take the time away to do. So, I was happy about it, and now we're back. I did miss this though. I'm not gonna lie. It was like our weekly, monthly. Well, I won't say monthly. It was like our twice a week, once a week check-in, and I feel like we were out of sync for a little bit.
A lot of things have been going on this summer. We took family vacations, a lot of travel. I think as we should.
As we should.
Yeah, and also just letting people have their own space. Meaning, like guests that want to come on and stuff. They're like, "Hey, I'm going to be gone for as you should. You should go take time, be with your family. Be alone."
That too.
Actually, when was the last time you took a solo vacation? I can't even. I don't even know.
I
wouldn't call the ones that I were vacations because I was usually working.
No, those are. I think like once you get married, those solo vacations are like you just don't usually do them because you want to take your pal with you.
No, of course, of course. Well, I'm excited about this one. This was we've actually been floating the concept of this episode for a couple months at this point. So we're just going to give it a shot. I think you and I both have talked about it and agreed, like, I don't remember every call. Yeah. And so sometimes in the midst of talking through something, I'll remember something or I'll remember one. And the audience has seen me flush stuff out live on the air. Not always great. Not always the best way to do it.
I think it's a good thing to do, though.
Yeah, but we're going to give this one a shot.
I like it.
And it's kind of, the questions themselves are kind of vague, but already just reading through kind of the thought process, certain calls did come to mind. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. But this one, we're kind of put the cart before the horse here. We're going to answer or discuss 3 questions. The call that changed you, the call that almost made you quit, and the call that made you want to keep doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the calls as they popped up, it's not chronological order. It's not like, oh, this is the one that changed me. And then after that, I almost wanted to quit, but then I went to this call and it made me want to keep going. That's not how these things go.
Nope.
I would say sometimes I would handle all 3 of these calls in the same week in varying degrees. But it helps when you have some perspective. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's see. So the opening thought, so to speak, is law enforcement careers are often measured in years, assignments, promotions, arrests, commendations. I don't know about commendations, but whatever's good for the resume, I guess. And retirement dates. But officers rarely remember their careers that way. They remember calls. And I think that is such a true statement. When you get a bunch of cops hanging around, let me rephrase that. Friendly cops who are friends with each other, hanging out, the cookout or wherever the hell they're hanging out. They don't go, "Hey, do you remember that commendation you got that one time?" No, it's, "Yo, do you remember that fucking crazy call or that funny call?" Or then sometimes after the drinks are flowing and you're around the fire and you maybe have a cigar and it gets a little more somber, you start talking about the calls that actually bother you.
Yeah.
That's the
when
truth.
People are being real with each other. And that's when you said, like, these are cops that are actual friends, not just cops that are around each other.
Yeah. Cops that are just trying to bolster each other. I'll be like, "Well, I got deputy of the year," or whatever, that nobody actually really talks like that. That's insane.
There are people who talk like that, but those are the parties where you're like, "Listen, guys, I've been here for an hour. I got to go."
An hour? Shit. Did everybody see me? All right, I got to slide. Irish goodbye, baby. Slide.
Those are the ones like, "Oh, it's the squad Christmas party. Okay, it's the obligatory let me go so I don't have to hear nobody's mouth."
Exactly. Exactly. So, Mo, this is my challenge to you as we go through these. We're going to try to get into some descriptions, but when we're thinking of the call, it's the house, the street, the voice over the radio, the child, your partner, the family member standing in the doorway as you drive away. Cause that's actually that comment right there already sprung a call in my head. Yeah. Sometimes it is the worst calls of your career. Sometimes it is a call nobody else would even remember. And sometimes one call changes the way you look at the job and yourself forever. These are the
True.
things we're thinking through as we go. All right. All right.
Ooh,
So as we get into it, when you think back over your career, this is a question for you. When you
okay.
think back over your whole career,
Right.
what call comes to mind immediately? I've got mine, but
For which one? What's which
no,
question?
no, just in general, because then we're going to get into the different
Ooh,
calls. Is there a call that just pops in? There's actually
there
one for
is.
me personally, and there's one that you told me that we'll never talk about on air. The one where you found the baby in the woods. I don't think we're ever actually going to talk about that one. Maybe. I
Mm,
don't know. I don't want to say never, but that's a rough one. But
that's a
besides,
rough one.
when I think
Yeah, that
of
was
calls related to you, I think you told me that one. It has horrified my mind ever since. But
that's
besides
one that
that,
almost made me quit.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to get into that one on air.
No, no,
It
no,
was
no,
a
no, no.
lot.
No. Is there any other call that pops in your mind?
That made me want to. There's a call. Yeah, there's one
No, no,
that
just
just lives
when you
that
think
just
about
lives
your
with me.
career that just goes pop. Yeah.
Hmm.
What was the nature of
Yeah,
that call?
that one was the one. That was one that almost made me quit as well. And
Oh.
I was. This call lives in my head, and I'm not one of those people who like. I want to
Mm-hmm.
set the stage. I'm not like me and my sister have talked about it on our podcast. How my brain and her brain is very different. Her brain constantly goes back and goes, "Hey, remember you did this?" My brain is not that way. Once it's happened, it's usually gone. However, this particular call is one that my brain has never purged, not even the details.
Mm.
And that's the one that I was in training, phase one. And I was probably like day 6 or 7, somewhere there about, pretty early in my phase training.
Mm-hmm.
My FTO, he was, really, I would say good or bad. I don't know if you want to say, with giving me a lot right away, which I
Mm.
took on great because I was like, I wanted to get through this and do well. And for all intents and purposes, I was doing well. I was getting a lot of positive feedback, even in that short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to a call. It came out as a traffic crash with injuries, and then it
Mm.
got updated. It ended up getting, by the time we got updated there, it was what we use is a signal 3, signal 7, which was there was
Mm.
somebody dead.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the call and it's just vehicle versus pedestrian. And when we get there, it is a high school kid, probably like 17, 18 years old.
Mm. Mm.
And he had come, the way that you entered the neighborhood is you entered and you immediately had to either go left or right in this neighborhood. So he had been traveling on a road that as he entered the neighborhood, it was almost like he was going to make a U-turn because he was immediately going left. Well, as he came in and made the left, he went wide, and there was somebody right there as he went wide,
Mm.
and she saw the vehicle coming as far as we could figure out at the time, and she was walking her baby who was about 6 weeks old. She was trying to get back in shape because she had just had a baby,
Mm.
and he came around the corner so fast that all she could do was to react by pushing her child out of the way,
Mm.
and she took the entire brunt of the hit. The baby's car seat got a little bit of a hit, but it kind of just went off into like someone's yard, but she took it all. So we get there. Obviously, there's multiple deputies there, but I see her and then I see the baby. And then we're like trying to ID her at this point because we knew there was, that she had no signs of life. So the only thing she had on her was a garage door opener. And I don't know why in that situation it was so ominous to me that we had to drive around this neighborhood and just click the garage door opener until somebody's
Mm.
garage opened up. And I will tell you that I don't know why the garage door thing was such a like, it was just so somber to me. And when we finally drove past the house and it came open, I literally felt sick. I was
Mm.
like, I don't want to walk into this person's house who didn't want me to be there. I don't
Mm.
want to have to walk through these people's house and rummage and try to find her next of kin. And when you walked in, on the wall, they had already had pictures of the family created. And so you had the baby, the mom, the dad all up on the walls, their pictures all there. And you walk in, and this was back in the day where you had home phones and things like that. So we're trying to rummage and find a number in this lady's house, trying to find
Mm.
a phone number for significant other, husband, somebody that we can notify as next of kin. And it was just like in that moment, it felt I almost felt dirty for being in her house and rummaging through
Mm-hmm.
her stuff and doing this. And when we finally found a phone number for the husband, we called him. He said, you need to come home. There's been an accident. Of course, we can't do death notifications over the phone if we can avoid it. So he
Mm-hmm.
comes home, and my FTO, as he's driving there, tells me, I'm going to have you deliver the death notification. And in my head, I'm
That's
like,
bro. God damn, bro.
okay, what, I mean, but I'm phase one rookie. I'm not going to argue with my FTO, you know,
Yeah.
but all the while, like, this call is taking it out of me because
Mm-hmm.
it was just the idea to think that the last moment of this woman's life was, I'm going to save my child. And God, I can't. And at the time, I didn't have children. Now that I have a child, oh, like,
Mm-hmm.
I know what she was feeling in her heart in that second, because it's without hesitation that you are going to protect your
Mm-hmm.
child. But then, like I said, to this day, we don't like the garage door openers for our homes. I don't like to use them because it's still the click sound. Just, it reminds
Interesting.
me of that moment of clicking that button as we're driving down this street until all of a sudden one goes, the garage door goes up. So anyways, husband drives into the yard, and he was a big dude. He was probably 6'5", 250, 300 pounds, big dude. And he immediately just drops down to his knees in front of me and goes, just tell me she's not dead. Just tell me she's not dead. I was so, like, I couldn't even breathe. I've never had a lump in my throat like that before it or after it. All I could do
Mm.
was hand him his child. And I
Ugh.
handed him his daughter, and I said, can you come in? I finally said, can you come inside? We went inside the house, and um, I I do not to this day remember what words I said to him, but I know I delivered
Mm.
the death notification, but I don't know what I said to him.
Mm-hmm.
I remember putting my sunglasses on in the house because I had tears in my eyes, and I was trying not for him to see them as they were rolling down my face. And I'm telling him, because he's asking all the questions: what happened? How did this happen? Where is she? Can I see her? And with every question, it was the most gut wrenching. And I remember getting back in the car with my FTO, and we did not have to write the report because it was a death, a
Mm-hmm.
vehicle crash that resulted in death. We had accident investigators that wrote it, so I did not have to write the crash. But I I did not, like, back at that point, FTOs didn't get it and go, all right, that was heavy. Let's talk about it. There was no words. We just got in. And so now my head is just spinning. And when I got off that night, I did everything to hold it together for the remainder of my shift. And I got off that night, and I remember calling my mom and just bawling and telling her, I will never do that again. I never want to deliver a death notification and crush somebody like that. And she was like, she was the reason. She's like, you gotta realize that you delivered it with compassion and all these
Mm-hmm.
things that somebody else couldn't have done. So it's like she was talking me through it in my head, but I was like, this is it. I'm not doing this. I'll go back working at Capital One. I don't need to do this no more, because it was one of those calls that just physically, emotionally, like, I've never been somebody who's like, oh, I can't eat. Like, I didn't want to eat. I did not want to ever be put in a position to
Mm.
do that ever again. So that was the call that almost made me just say, I ain't cut out for this job. And had it not been for my mom being like, I think that you are, Monique, because it is hitting you that hard. But even with that, that's the call that has stuck with me my entire career and after my career. I can still remember years later, the kid who was driving the car, sidebar, was on a business purposes only driver's license because he had had so many tickets already. So he was only supposed to be driving to school and home.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up getting some criminal charges, went to court, and it was kind of a big case because the husband was he was locally known, we'll just say. And so I saw the little girl probably when she was about 5 or 6, when they were outside of the courthouse, and I can still see her face.
Mm.
So yeah, that was the one that almost made me quit. Said, I ain't doing this. I'm gonna just be a Capital One rep.
I'm gonna save my quit one for later because I got I'm filtering through my mind which ones, but
Yeah.
the ones that changed me, I guess, and that's such a broad statement on how it changed you. The first one was right. I think it was either the day of or the first week I got off FTO, so I was still brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to this, I was full of piss and vinegar, as they say. I was catching bad guys. I loved it. I hated the stupid reports already. Like I hadn't been on long enough to hate any report, but there was certain like the fucking retail thefts. Like I hated those because they were stupid to me. That kind of I hated that shit. I wanted
Right.
to go. I wanted to go catch bad guys, and that's all. I want. High speed, low drag. That's what I wanted
Right.
to do. And um, see, I can't remember if it was the first week or the first day. I can't remember. But anyway, it was very. I just remember being by myself, and the call came in as a domestic, and so I was like, boom, boom, I'm there, I'm ready, and I'm rolling in hot. And I get there, it's not really domestic. The neighbors had called because the family inside was freaking out, screaming, and but they weren't fighting. What had happened was their teenage daughter had hung herself, and she was dead. And and I'm trying to think. I gotta think how I could edit this. She wasn't clothed, and she was in her closet. And I wasn't thinking. I just put it out on the radio. I had to cut her down, and I was starting to try to do CPR. And I remember in my mind, like trying not to be inappropriate, I guess. It wasn't registering to me what I was doing, like that I was trying to save her life.
Right.
And so I remember it being very awkward, and I felt almost embarrassed by trying to perform CPR on her because I didn't know. And keep in mind, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how long she had been this way. I didn't know any of this stuff. I was just like, I saw a problem, and I started doing my thing. EMS came in. They like kind of pushed me off and said, "Hey, we got it." They declared her right there because they're like, "No, she's gone." And so then the investigative mode comes in, and I'm calling because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm like, can I get a detective? And they're like, no, it's not a homicide, bro. Like, this is what you do. And I was like, what? So a senior deputy, cause I was still on the FTO squad, but, anyway, a senior deputy came to assist me, and they were like, hey, wasn't taking the case for me and said, you need to do this. You need to talk timeline. Long story short, the family had gone to church, and they were a very traditional family, and they had found out that she was dating a boy. And they got into a big argument, and they basically told her life was over. And she truly obviously felt that. They got home to change to go to have lunch. As most families go to church, they, come home from church and get ready, and then they go have lunch, whatever, right? So the parents said it 10, 15 minutes max, maybe. And then they were like waiting for her, and she wasn't come down. So they went up, and then that's when the call came in. It was a little suspicious. Nobody there called 911. It was the neighbors, but I don't know that part. I don't fully remember or understand. I'd have to get the report to figure it out. But I just remember the devastation. And then I had to question them about their daughter, who's now gone. And they didn't know what to do. And they were looking to me for answers, and I didn't know what to do. Right. They're like, well, what do we do? Right. And so I had, and I remember having to call supervisors. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And you guys just got me out here by myself. That call changed me. That changed the nature. Because keep in mind what I just said. Prior to that, I was like burglars, robbers, mutual affrays, gangbangers, drug dealers. Like I was chasing that. That was my thing. And I'm like, wait, I don't like this part of the job. I don't know what this is. I don't like it.
Yeah.
That, and then I've already talked about it, so I'm not going to go into it. But the one that it didn't make me want to quit, but it definitely has. So whenever somebody says, "What's the one call you remember?" It's the one where the dad lost his whole family, the van, and that was struck. I've talked about it on the show a few times, but same thing, traffic crash with fatality, but it was the mom, and I think there was two kids, like two and a baby and an infant. I don't remember that part. Like you said, I didn't. We didn't work those, the traffic accident investigators did. But I was holding like the scene, and they were trying to figure out notification when this guy pulled up, and he goes, "That's my family." It gets, And yeah, because he was like, she was supposed to go to the grocery store. She hasn't been back.
Mm,
Um, that one still makes me cry. Like,
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
not the call because I've seen a lot of traffic. We've talked about it where people I've seen crashes where they catch on fire. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, but it's like the voice, it's like the tenor and the voice. Oof, it
The
hurts me.
pain, you
It
know,
hurts
the
me.
pain, and especially being a
Oof.
dad,
Yeah,
you know the
I had little kids
pain,
at that time too. Yeah.
and your mind can't even wrap your brain around if you were to pull up and see a car that was yours and you
Mm-hmm.
knew that there was nothing to do. Like,
Yeah.
that's where I say, like, we do this job and we want to do it with a level of excellence. So we want to
Mm-hmm.
go to all those calls and we want to do all the things, but then you have the things, like you said, the tenor of his voice that still resonates in your brain, you know, or the garage clicker that still, the clicking
Mm-hmm.
sound reminds you of I mean, it's just wild that it does like that. It still chokes you up,
Yeah.
you know? So
So this is the questions after, but what did the call? How did that call change? How did that call change you? Um,
I will say that was the one that made me want to quit. The call that
I
changed
mean,
me was a different call.
yeah, but we're gonna go in reverse. It's
Okay.
fine. How did
Okay.
that call change you though, or make you think about the job you were doing?
I didn't want to do it. Like I said,
The rap.
I did not ever want to, like, when I told this man that his wife was gone and that basically
Yeah.
you are now going to raise your daughter from infancy alone, I knew that I was shattering his world. And even
Mm,
though I didn't do it, I felt so responsible. I just felt so responsible in that moment. Now, I will tell you, like I said, in talking to my mom and having her walk me through the call and the situation. And, you know, the sad thing is I didn't realize, like, obviously I didn't give her all the gory details of this is what she looked like or nothing,
yeah.
but I
Yeah.
told her of the call and I still, like, my mom handled it well, but I don't know if that affected her at the time or if she was just trying to protect her baby in that moment, which was me.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So she walked me through it and kind of explained to me that you bring doing this where it is hurting you, it's
Mm-hmm.
because you care. It's because you are the person that's cut out for this job. So even though in that moment I wanted to quit, it made me do the job with a little more, um, not that I wasn't compassionate before, but it definitely added more compassion to what it is that I did for those moments where
Mm-hmm.
you needed to be compassionate. And, I didn't ever stop because of the conversation that I had with my mom afterwards. I never stopped putting myself in other people's shoes when I was dealing with calls. So that's where I would say, how did it make me different? Um, and I think that for me, once I did become a field training officer, it made me a different field training officer because I knew what I didn't get in that moment as a recruit and
Mm-hmm.
as a trainee. And I never wanted my trainees or recruits to ever experience that. So it spanned beyond me, like just what kind of deputy it was, but it was also what kind of trainer I became because I wanted
Mm,
to make sure that when we went to calls that were tough, and I did some, I would ask, all right, we got to talk through this, you know, and just saying like, hey man, you good? That wasn't enough. And I knew that from being in that moment. It was,
mm-hmm.
I would tell them what I felt. Man, when I walked on that call, I remember I went to a call where a guy was riding a motorcycle and I had a recruit. He later left because he said it was too much for him. But we went to a call where a guy
Respect
had
it.
rode he was riding a Ducati and he had never ridden a motorcycle before. I'm like, that's not where you start, bro.
Yeah.
But he rode it and the front tire dropped off the pavement into sugar sand, you
Ooh,
know, right. Well, needs to say he went over, he wasn't wearing a helmet, head hits pavement, it's never good.
rap. No.
It was a wrap. And it didn't look that devastating. And coupled with his girlfriend comes running up there and is like, that's my boyfriend. And she's
Mm,
like, he's doing that agonal breathing. And she's
mm-hmm.
like, baby, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I'm like, he's not.
Mm,
He's not.
mm,
But when I got my recruit back in the car, I was like, all right, let's talk through this. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, for me, I was kind of messed up when we got this call because I saw this, I heard this, he's breathing. I think I need to try to like, you know, and I talked him through the feelings that I was having, but also what I know he might have been having as that first time recruit. And even though he ended up leaving and going, he was a detention deputy that ended up going back to the detention side because he just said he didn't like the road side of it. One of the
Mhm.
things he said to me was that he appreciated the trainer that I was to him. And he goes, I will always hold you in high regard because I don't know that I would have gotten some of the foundational things that I got from you. And I know that for me, it came from the experiences that I had had um, in that situation.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this: the call that
Sure.
you had, did it make you did you look at your family differently after that?
Um,
In
I
any
didn't
way,
have
I don't
kids at
know,
that time,
but
so I
yeah.
didn't say it didn't affect me my viewpoint of my family in that respect, but it did affect my viewpoint of my who I could lean on in the times when I was going through stuff like that. So for me, it changed the viewpoint of me and my mom, and that I knew that
Mm,
if I had something that I didn't, it's sad, but at the time I didn't feel like I could lean on other deputies because I didn't have a core group. I was brand new. So it changed my viewpoint of her and my dad and how I could use them to help me mentally not lose touch. Cause I realized in that call that this job could fuck you up
yeah, interesting. And that was right off the rip.
right off the rip, bro.
Damn.
7 days
Mm,
in.
shit.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm. Well, see, because you are good at this, you answered, you went through all the questions, but, and I appreciate that. But, for me, you know, those calls that I'm referring to, it did make me look at my family differently. Unfortunately, a few years later, it took a while for it to set in. We've talked
Right.
about that before on the show too.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a question here that says, at what point did you realize this was a different from a normal call meeting, and how, I guess, and how it ultimately affected you? I don't think you know that in the moment.
Mm-mm.
I didn't,
No, no, I
right?
don't think so.
I don't know
No,
why
this,
some stick out more than other. I don't know.
yeah, you don't realize that that call's going to live with you. You don't in
Mm-mm.
that moment. And I
Yeah.
think the more calls you get, you think that eventually that one will fade,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't.
Yeah. And you had yours right off the rip. I wasn't ready for that, Mom.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it happened to you that young or
Hmm.
that early in your career.
Yeah.
Let's,
I was
let's,
young too. I was only like 23.
yeah, no, that's wild. See, I was even, so when I started, I was 28. So I was still,
Hmm.
even then I was a little older. Um, so we're going to kind of meet in the middle, and then we'll flip sides on the
Yes.
back, and then we'll get into some of the other questions. But is there a call that made you realize, like, this is what you loved your job, like you still wanted to be, this is why you became a cop?
For me, there was two that popped into my head. There was one, my first squad when I got cut loose and I was on the street. I loved my first squad. They were amazing. But I remember we went to a call one night and it was something, it was a domestic of some kind. I remember us having to arrest people and it was probably like 4 or 5 of us that were there. And it was Christmas time and the kids obviously were just shook. And they had no Christmas presents. I mean, it was bad. And I remember that we all got together later on that night and we decided we were going to do something. And as a squad, we went to our supervisor and we said, this is what we want to do. We want to buy some Christmas gifts for these kids and we want to put them under their tree. And
Mm.
there was, let's see, one, two, three. There was 4 of us plus our sergeant. We all put together money and she let us go go out in busy status and shop. And we filled our patrol cars with gifts for these kids and
This
took
was
it to
from a
them
domestic call.
from a domestic call. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, did somebody go to jail, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we took. If I remember, it was dad that went to jail, dad or boyfriend. I don't remember if he was dad of the kids or if he was just boyfriend. But it was the male
Oh,
figure in the house that we took to jail,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
the she had indicated like he was the moneymaker. This and if it was like within like Christmas was like a week away, something like that.
yeah, yeah.
And at the time, we were all of us were young, running hot, high speed, low drag, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us had kids. We were partying. We had money to burn at this point because we were doing pretty decent as deputies. But this call hit us all kind of the same. And there was, like I said, 4 of us plus our supervisor. And she's like, yeah. So we went shopping. We went to the kids' house and these kids' faces, like I don't know where they went after that. I don't know, even if they, a week later, the toys were destroyed. I don't know, but I know in that moment that you could see on their little faces that there was an impact made. So I thought, for me, I was like, this is what this job is supposed to be. Like, yeah, we have to take people to jail. That's part of it. But also, if we see a need, like you said earlier, like I saw a problem and we started to fix it in that moment.
Mm.
My hope is that maybe we made an impact on one of those kids and it was a long lasting impact. But in that moment, I know we did. So
Mm.
that was one for me. And then the other one I would say that really stuck out to me was when I was in our crime prevention unit. So I was assigned, we had at the time, we taught all of the like programs in elementary schools. And I had some rough elementary schools, rough ones. And I was
Mm.
fine with it. I didn't care. And there was one kid, I remember when I came to the school, it was in a really rough neighborhood. And they told me, yeah, this one kid you're going to be teaching. It was like second grade. I think it was first or second grade. And they said, yeah, that kid, he's kind of rough. He's bad. Da, 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 da is what they said. And I'm like, okay. Somehow or another at the time, well, let me back up. At the time, I had dreads that were down to about my waist. They were very, very long. And, I used to bun them, but you could tell they were dreads still. And I remember when I walked in, the kid looked up at me and he was just like, just captivated. So I taught, I did my whole thing, whatever, whatever. And I always used to open it up to let them have questions. And I remember him asking, something about like, do you have dreads? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, can I see them? And the teacher had already, like I said, had kind of prepped me because I'd been coming to this school for about 6 or 7 months. She's like, he is rough. I can't get him to do anything. Da, da, da. So I pulled him aside and I said, here's the deal. Because he's like, I want to see your dreads down because I've never seen a cop with dreads. And I said, here's what you need to do. I said, at the end of your 9 weeks, if you have done well and you have good grades and you've been behavior wise, they haven't had to tell me anything when I'm coming to the school. I said, I will come take my dreads down and we'll have lunch together. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, something so simple. And I was like, whatever. That kid did it.
Mm.
He stuck with it and he had good grades that particular 9 weeks. They said he hasn't been a behavior for us, nothing. And I came to a school and I took my hair down and he was just, can I touch him? Cause in his head, I think he had never seen anybody that looked like that. And in his case, looked like him that was in uniform. And I think it was life changing for him. And in
Mm.
that moment, I thought we don't realize those little impacts like that can be a ripple effect. So those are the two ones that I think that made me really say, I want to do this job. And this is why I do this job.
You're a better person than me because that's not where my mind went. Those kind of things. I love that you said all that. And I have to imagine you definitely had a bead or something in the dreads. Come on, Mo. I know you had.
No, I didn't. No.
Seashell, nothing. Just let them ride.
It was too hard to bun them up if I had a seashell in there.
I love it. That's not where my mind went.
Where did your mind go? I want to know.
What again? It was after the call that I mentioned before. I don't know how long ago, but it was a domestic where I think we've actually talked about it on the show. But it's the call that pops in my mind where 911 neighbor, and then I just see the little kid in the window crying, like next to the door. You know how those apartments are?
Yeah.
Boom! I just kicked the fucking door in. And that's the one where the male was standing over the like laying on her, choking her in the bed. I just side tackled his ass and it was a wrap. And I was like, that is like, that's why I do what I do. Felt like a badass.
I'm not mad at you for it.
Yeah. The other one is actually, again, just those moments that, again, the calls that remind you like, this is why I do what I do, was our call where we both tased somebody.
Bro, that was so good.
That's still just a stellar call.
Amazing call.
Amazing call. I'm trying to think, cause you went in a different direction than I went with that one. I don't think I had
I just feel like those calls, I don't want people to take it wrong, but those calls are fun. They are.
Yeah.
Like, it goes back to, you're doing cop shit. Like, exactly. We signed up to do this job to drive fast, have lights on, do stuff like that. But for me, like the ones that make you go, oh, that hit you in your feels, that's the ones that really made me go, this is why I want to do this. This is why.
Yeah, I like that. You know, it's funny because, you know, you started saying that, like, I've done stuff where, like, they call 911 and their baby's not breathing, and then you show up and you do the bat thing and they breathe, and you're like, ah. But for me, it's like, I don't know. That
I like it.
I feel good about it. I do.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, this is why I do what I do, bro. Like kicking in the fucking door, or like the vehicle pursuits, and you get out and you chase the motherfucker down. Like, that's
so good.
Cop shit, baby. You know what I'm saying?
You ain't wrong, man. You ain't wrong. Yeah. That's the one that did it for you.
Yes. I love it. See, I love where you're headed. I love where it goes, Mom. See, that's why we balance each other out.
That's why.
Shit. Actually, you know what I want to do is we're gonna go through our cop stories, and then we'll talk about these questions, because I think that'll just flow better. So now I'll talk about the one that almost made me want to quit, and then you could talk about the one that changed you, I guess, your perspective. This is very interesting. Yeah. This is enlightening. We should ask, when we have other cops on, we should ask these questions.
We should ask these questions
just to see, because it's all different for everybody,
different.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I definitely didn't go into the whole, like, having lunch, because I did that with my son. Like, I went to his kindergarten, and I would go and I'd be in uniform, and half the class would cry. The other half would be excited that I was there. So I do remember those things, but it's interesting. That's just not what jumped in my head.
Yeah.
So the one that, BJ's gonna let. Well, I think we talked about BJ and I talked about it one time. I don't have the actual call, but we've talked about it. And the one that made me want to fucking quit, because I felt like we failed this little boy, was I think he's like 1 year. He wasn't 2. He was like 1 year old. And BJ, and this was in the box. Not in the box. This was in the fishbowl, Bravo 3.
Got it.
So you already know.
Mm-hmm.
We get a call. Woman calls saying her son has been hit by a car again, for the second time. He's not 2 years old yet. Yes. All right. I think, I get there first. EMS is already there. Little dude's in a diaper.
Jesus.
They picking him off the street. They have him on a stretcher. He's crying. So I'm like, all right, well, that's a good sign. He's alive.
Right.
And the mom is calm. Just boop, calm. Nothing crazy. And then the person that hit the little boy is also there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So then it was a convoluted call. And I remember BJ showed up. I said, hey, go with the little boy. I'll meet you at the hospital. That's how we kind of split. And I'm interviewing the mom. I'm interviewing the driver. I even think I called accident, because I'm like, hey, he's not signal 7. He's not dead, but this person hit a kid, like, you know. And I think I kind of got blown off. Like, just, I basically did the interviews, and then I responded to the hospital to see what was going on, nature of the injuries. So that's where I'm at. The mom was gonna meet. She was like, oh, can I follow you? I was like, no, because we don't do escorts. I'm like, we're not doing anything. I'm like, I'll meet you there. Don't follow me, because I didn't want her breaking traffic law. Anyway, this side note. I get there. BJ goes, hey man, I gotta talk to you. So I go off to the side, and I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? He goes, dude, the doctor needs to talk to us. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, what the fuck's going on? Is the kid okay? He goes, yeah, the kid's fine, but there's a problem. So then we're waiting, and BJ didn't have all the answers. So that's why we're just waiting. And the doctor comes in. He goes, I don't know how to tell you this, but this little boy has the most severe burns I have ever seen on a human being. And so we go into the room where the kid is, and he rolls the kid over, and on his back is silver skin. And if people don't know what that is, it's like where you've had multiple burns build up over time. It's almost like a callus, and they are the perfect shape of an iron, like for ironing clothes, where this has been going on for a very long time. He goes, this is layers of scar tissue. This isn't like a one-time thing, and this has nothing to do with the accident. So I immediately go red. Shark eyes, right? I'm rage mode. Now, mom is no longer a witness. I'm going full steam in there, right?
Right.
And she just denies, has no idea what I'm talking about, just does that whole thing. So I'm furious. Now. So I call CID, and a detective comes out, and BJ and I are like hot mode. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to arrest this woman now.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, and a few arguments and a conversation from our lieutenant telling us that we are being insubordinate and to stand down and to leave. We leave, and no arrest was made. And DCF was called, but the detective was like, we'll continue to investigate, but no, we're not going to deprive this woman access to her children, especially if we don't know what her involvement was. I even remember the detective's name, I can tell you, because that's how pissed I was.
Right.
And BJ and I, it was the maddest him and I have ever been. And we had to go, we had to leave there and go report to the office, to the barracks in D1. And our sergeant, our corporal, and our lieutenant, because the lieutenant's the one that actually, because the detective basically called his supervisor, who, you know what I'm saying? Because that, I'm telling you, that's how fired up BJ and I, we were like, I was about to lose my fucking mind.
Right.
And I will tell you, the lieutenant, it was old head lieutenant. I can't remember his name. He had the afro. He'd been there. Brown, I think. Is it Brown? Yeah, Lieutenant Brown. So I had nothing but the utmost respect for him because he was an old head lieutenant. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just talked to us. And BJ and I came in hot, and the sergeant and the corporal, you could tell they were ready for a verbal repartee between BJ and I. And the lieutenant goes, "I'm good, y'all." He goes, "You guys, I'll come get you in a minute." And he told BJ and I to come into his office. And we sat down and we're like, he's like, "I can see you guys are upset." He goes, "That's good." And just his demeanor and the way he talked to me, he goes, "It's good that you have passion." He goes, "But you need to know your role." He goes, "You're not a detective and you're not a supervisor, and your actions to a fellow law enforcement professional were inappropriate." And that's just how he came at us. And it just immediately like disarmed us and kind of,
Yeah. He was very calm always.
He was very calm. He was the man. Well, it says he's the same man that would break up a disturbance by cranking shotgun rounds into a ceiling to calm the situation down. Yeah. Anyway, love. Shout out Lieutenant Brown. But that was the closest BJ and I left that. And then, of course, I'll tell you who the sergeant and corporal were. Well, you know, one of them. Still not a fan. They had to get their little jabs into us. And we were kind of on the shit list for a few weeks after that. And then CID sergeant came and the next, where we are, roll call.
Roll call. Yeah.
He had words for the unit, but directed at BJ and I. So we dealt with that for a few weeks.
Those are for you.
Yeah. We knew everyone knew who he was talking to. But that was the closest I ever came. Cause I'm like, what are we even fucking doing? Yeah. I'm giving this little boy who's got layers of burns tissue, and you're not going to do shit about it.
And been hit by a car twice.
Twice, bro. I'm still upset about it, as you can tell.
I know. I feel you.
That was the time I felt helpless. I felt like they didn't understand, and nobody gave a shit. And I think I even made a comment to the detective because he said something like, when you've had a few more years on, you understand. I was like, if I'm as heartless as you are, motherfucker, I said, I'd rather kill myself than be as heartless as you. I said some wild shit, Mo. I'm not going to sit here and defend what I said. I was out of control. I was out of control. I let it rip. Like BJ was like, we should arrest him.
Nope.
1015 the detective Mo from CID. Don't do it, bro.
Update me 1015 1 HCSO detective.
Ooh, Mo, could you imagine?
No, I could not.
I'm arresting everybody in this motherfucker. But I was hot, man. I still am a little bit.
I see that.
Anyway, that's my call.
I like it. But that's the thing. Like, I think that both of the calls that we said that would make us want to quit, if you listen to, they were very different, but they both evoked a level of passion that we physically felt. And I think that's one of the things that's not discussed in law enforcement. Like, we see some stuff that is going to physically tax you, not just emotionally, but it's going to hit every mentally, physically, emotionally, all those parts. And then when people come into this job being like, I'm different, it's not going to affect me. I won't take this stuff home. There is not a way possible to be a human being, care about what it is that you do, and not take some of it home.
Yeah. I will tell you that's when I found out I have a soft spot for anything that involves children. And when I say that, I mean children who can't defend themselves or they don't have a voice because it's not developed yet. Like
right.
You clearly see something's wrong and they're trying to articulate it to you. That will get all my dad mode, deputy mode, trooper mode, all the modes will be activated because I'm going to
Yeah.
come out, and
Right.
put myself in the gap for that individual.
Yeah.
And I will say it's not all children though.
What do you mean?
Did I ever tell you about the little girl in over there in Bravo? Oh no, it was Alpha 3. I don't want to say their names, but well, I'll just tell the story real quick. This is just a funny call, but it tells you that not all kids are the same. So it involved a well-known teenage female who everybody who worked that zone, everybody knew her. She was on an ankle monitor. She was like 14. She was like 14, Mo.
Jesus.
But she was like 14. She's like 5'6", 300 pounds.
Jesus.
Tattoos. Had a violent history. She just beat everybody up. That was her whole thing. And she was slanging dope and she was doing all kinds of wild stuff. Yeah. So she's not the one I was calling about, or talking about. We would have called it that individual because everybody in the neighborhood knew who she was. They're like, hey, you know who beat up this little girl who's 3 years old? I was like, what? So mode activated, right? I roll in hot. I immediately snatch up the teenager. I said, man, get over here. I handcuffed her. I was like, she was like, fuck that bitch. She was like cursing us. I was like, she's 3.
She's 3.
She knows what
idiot.
she did. And let me tell you, the victim, and I quotations for a reason, the victim was 3. And the parents were there. The little girl's holding her eye because the teenage girl punched her right in the fucking eye, straight up.
Jesus.
So now I'm like, I get everything settled. I'm like, I need to interview your daughter. They stepped off. I got down on one knee to get on her level. I was like, hey, sweetie, are you okay? Are you all right? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, I was like, can I see your eye? And she showed me. It was a little puffy, I was like, can you tell me what happened? She goes, that fat bitch over there was talking shit. I was like, what, bro?
This was a 3-year-old?
3 years old, Bo. 3 years old. I swear to you. Oh, I was like, and then I go in the car and I'm like, why'd you punch that 3-year-old? She called me a fat bitch. I was like, yeah, she sure did. She sure did. She sure did. I said, you still can't be hitting 3-year-olds, but
you can't hit 3-year-olds because you're a teenager idiot.
I was like, damn.
That 3-year-old sound like she could hold her own.
She gonna be on an ankle monitor in a few years too.
I love it.
So that's what I meant. Not all kids, anyway.
I get it. So the call.
What was the call that changed you?
That changed me. It's not necessarily a call. It was more of an assignment for me.
Ooh.
My assignment for being undercover changed me.
Yeah, fair enough.
We talked about it probably in like the very first episode I ever recorded with you.
I don't think we've actually ever touched on it again. We've talked about the hostage negotiation stuff. We've talked about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So being undercover, I mean, you are a cop, but nobody knows it. So you dress the part, you answer your phone, you do all these things. And sometimes you have confidential informants. Sometimes you have unwittings, people that are working with you and introducing you to other people. And they don't even know that they're necessarily introducing you to other people. Or you have confidential informants who know they're introducing you to other people and things like that. But either way, everybody gets a fake name. Everybody gets a fake version of you. And in the job role, nobody gets the real you necessarily. And I remember I was working with a girl who I had arrested. She was a confidential informant now, and she was introducing me, and we would, as a result, ride around in the car for hours together. Her, me, and my partner, not just me and her, but, she's quote unquote hanging out with us because she's introducing us to people. We're buying dope. We're buying guns. We're doing all the things. And we, as a undercover, you got a throwdown phone. So they got your phone number. They call you, you answer. It becomes, now I look back as a quasi, like, y'all are pals, but the reality is that person never knew my real name, never knew anything about me that was true, knew a version or a story about me, but none of it was a true version of who I was. None of it was real, but because she was someone that I was being a bad guy with, I wasn't going to tell her about me, but they tell you about them. because
Mm-hmm.
these people are required to be honest because they're confidential informants and they sign paperwork that says they're going to tell you the truth and they're going to make sure that the people they're introducing to you, they're telling everything about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So long story short, I had been working with this girl for probably like 6 or 7 months and her charges had just been kind of sitting out because she kept introducing us to more people, more people, more people. And I remember one night, it was late. It was probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. My throwdown phone rings. I answer it. It's her. I'm thinking, bro, if you got a deal, I'm not doing it tonight. We're not doing it. And I answer
Mm-hmm.
the phone. And I could tell she's like upset and crying. And I answer the phone. I'm like, what's up? And she's like, oh my God, they just loaded my grandmother into an ambulance. They're taking her to the hospital. I don't know if she's going to make it, blah, 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 blah. And you could tell in that moment, even though this was oh, this is a bad guy, she was a human being in that moment who was
Mm-hmm.
devastated because her grandmother was the person who had raised her and that had
Mm-hmm.
always helped her when she came into and had issues. And um, that was her parent. That was her mom essentially. And I remember her being like, can you please just meet me at the hospital? And I was like, I don't know. She's like, please, you are she didn't say best friend, but she said, you're the only friend that I have that I can call to come with me. That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I can't get away right now. I'm tied up. I gave her another lie. But I remember thinking in that moment, like, Jesus, this is a human being at the end of the day that is going through something that is devastating her world. And she doesn't even know my real name.
Mm-hmm.
And some people would be like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I will say I didn't care to like damage my career or do something out of the box, for her, but it
Mm-hmm.
did make me have pause for the situation. And I was like, this is not something I ever wanted to do. When I became a cop because I wanted to be a cop and do the things that were right. And in this instance, I didn't feel like it was right. And I was like, I don't think I'm cut out to do undercover work. And I will say from the very beginning, undercover was one of those places that I had said when I first came to the sheriff's office, I never wanted to go because I always felt like they were going to pigeonhole me into it because I had dreads when I came, like I said, and I was like, oh, they're going to want to put me out buying dope, this, that, and the other. And then I went against my own decision because I wanted to get promoted. And I
Mm-hmm.
was told, well, you got to go this route to get promoted. You got to be a detective. So I was trying to do all the things that I thought were going to satisfy that, which
Mm-hmm.
it didn't. But in
Mm-hmm.
any event, I went against my own. I think that might have been too why it hit me and changed me. I wouldn't say it reminded me and changed me back to who I was from the very beginning because I'd gotten away from who I was. That wasn't what I ever wanted to do. And then I did it for the wrong reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, I thought, this is not who you are. You need to go back to being who you are. And it just was one of those things that like really changed me that I was like, I go to a job and I'm lying to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. I understand there's a mechanism where that is required. So I'm not knocking don't come for me, undercover officers. I get it. There is absolutely a mechanism and a rationale and a reason behind it. But then there are like I get the fact that we are trying to arrest people who are bringing kilos and bringing in
Mm-hmm.
truckloads of marijuana and stuff like that. But usually we are breaking the backs of these people who are selling 2 and 3 joints a lot of times too. So let's be realistic about what it is that we're doing in many cases. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, for me, I was like, this girl is a human being, like I said, going through a human experience. And she called somebody who was the only friend she had and didn't even know that friend's real name.
Mm-hmm. I will say, obviously, I was never undercover.
Mm.
Side story. I went to an undercover training class and immediately they're like, not you. Uh, nah, bro, you're not the one. You immediately look like a cop. I was like, damn it.
Not just
Um,
that, you would stand out so much. Did you remember that big ass white dude that you were selling?
yeah,
Everybody would know
I
you. You
don't
get
have
burned so
the,
fast.
yeah, I don't do the blend in. I don't
Mm-mm.
blend at all. Very true. But I will say, just a different capacity in law enforcement, I was a banker before I got into law enforcement, and you are forced to talk to all walks of life, homeless, prostitute, business owner, CEO, whatever the hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird dawning on me that because I don't know what I'm not trying to be derogatory. This is actually a positive thing I'm trying to say here, but I started to see everyone like they're people just like you and me. They just had some bad things either happen to them or they made some poor
Right.
choices. Now, with that
Right.
being said, some of these people are fucking batshit crazy and criminals and scumbags and fuck them. But that's not everybody. I've had many a conversation with, at a gas station or whatever with the homeless dude, just chatting it up about wild, like, almost like two
Yeah.
coworkers
Yeah.
about what's going on in the neighborhood. Right. And then we're like, all right, I got to get back to work. He's like, all right, man. Totally. You know what I'm saying?
Totally different.
Those moments you're like, oh man, it's just,
Yeah.
a decision here or there. Maybe I'd be right where that dude is. You know what I mean?
You
Shit
don't know.
happens.
Yeah.
You start to see everyone as a human being until they give you a reason not to. Cause there are some,
Right.
you know what? We need to get somebody out here talking about like the actual evil that happens. Cause I still think people don't understand there are evil motherfuckers out there.
There are.
And I've seen it. I have talked to them. They're like, yo, people are evil, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not advocating for people to go out and just talk to everybody in the street. What I'm saying is don't do that. Terrible idea. Unless you have training. Oof, or a lot of other people.
Yes.
That was one thing I liked about Brock. Brock acknowledged the fact that he has training. He has a gun. He's like, gotta let them surround me and crowd me. Hell no. I was like, very good. All right. Let's round this out. The call that changed you. What did it teach?
It taught me a lot of what you just said, that like we have to make sure that no matter what role we are taking on in the law enforcement world, that we are interacting with the individuals as human beings. And that we are making sure that we are doing things obviously by the book, but also making sure that we are doing things that we can morally be held accountable for.
Yeah. Mine was the calls that we go to are not all going to be high speed, low drag, catch the bad guy, put him in jail. Sometimes there's no real end to that story or that case. You see what I'm saying? Like there's no, what is the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's no closure.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
There's no reason why. You see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make sense. I didn't get to investigate. It happened.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes when you don't have closure to be able to wrap it up and put it away.
There's something about catching a bad guy, putting him in jail, seeing that play out. I don't know. I guess because we're humans, we need like a beginning, middle, and end. And so when 100%. There's no end, you kind of feel stuck. Yeah.
That's why I would never be a dispatcher and have so much respect for them, because I'm supposed to just hang up and go to the next call. No.
Yeah. I gotta ask, you know what? We gotta talk. What is their release like? How did they get it? I don't know.
All
right.
That's amazing.
I don't know. All right. The call that almost made you quit. Why did you stay? You kind of touched on it, but
I touched on it a little bit, but it was really because my mom convinced me that passion and that pain that I was experiencing, that it was necessary for what it is that we were doing. That may not be the last time that I have to crush somebody's world, but understand that you're doing it with a compassionate hand. And the way she equated it, and it's a weird, stay with me. She's like, you look at it like this. When you were a child and you had to be corrected, I wanted you to be corrected by me because I loved you through the correction. If I didn't correct you, then you were going to go out in the world and be corrected by some random person who was probably going to do it much more severely without the love behind it. And she said, you have this desire to not want to have people be hurt. So you're going to be as compassionate as you can possibly be. Someone else may not be.
Damn it, Mo, your answers are better than mine. Mine was straight up spite, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a supervisor or a detective just to fuck that guy over.
I fucking love you.
My motivation was spite, 100%. I was gonna rise above that guy and then fuck him over.
Oh my god, that's outstanding.
Yes,
I love it.
That's true, though. I don't know. Let's see. The call that made you want to continue. What did it remind you about the job?
It reminded me why I got into this job. Because again, going back to the first time you interviewed me, the reason I got into this job was because, part of it was because I wanted to make sure that people who hadn't seen an officer that looked like me do this job, and that they to build more bridges that was my whole idea. And I felt like in the two calls that kind of made me want to do it,
Mhm.
even though like the one family, it was a white family. It wasn't like anything like that that we went and took Christmas gifts to. It was still, to me, it was the bridge building part that I wanted to get into this job for. And it was just, to me, those were just bright spots
Mm.
in my career path.
I don't know if we ever talked about it, but when I became a deputy or got into law enforcement, there was a lot that kind of went into it. I wanted to. I've always been a big guy and fighting and all that, but I didn't feel like that was enough to protect my family, and I wanted to have the skill sets to be able to do that. And
Hmm.
also, this is going to sound so cliche. I hate myself for saying it, but I wanted to give them a safe community to grow up in. Like that is truly in my heart
Oh,
where my brain was, even though I never worked anywhere we ever lived. So that didn't really go the way I thought it would. But the skill sets, the training, the mentality that I was like, I can do this because I hadn't felt that way before I went through HESO training. I didn't feel that way. I didn't know.
right.
I was like one of those guys, those dads that were like cautious and try to be secure, but I had no fucking clue what I was doing or what I was even saying. It was like
Yeah.
from TV or, something my buddy told me would work, that kind of dumb shit. I wanted real, actual hands-on knowledge. And so when I did what I deemed cop shit, drive fast, kick indoors, arrest bad guys, save the day, I was like, I
Yes.
can do this. I can fucking do this. That's the
I
truth.
like it.
That's the truth.
I like
Not,
that though.
not always the best intentions, and one of them is cliche. But
I
I
feel
will
like
say,
though,
I will
as
say,
long as
Mo.
your intention isn't
Yeah.
like, I'm out here to see who I can kill, like, I
Oh
feel
no,
like
no.
it usually is going to still bring your heart to the job, which is important.
Oh, again, I have a soft spot for kids specifically, protecting them. But I will say, traveling because my daughter and I went to Japan, and
Nice.
we were there for a while. And I remember on the way back, she looked at me and she goes, "Dad." She was like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And two, she goes, "I don't think I could do this with anyone else." I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You just always seem to know how to handle all the situations." I was like, "Well, I appreciate that, baby, but that is not true." I'm just out here figuring shit out, man. She goes,
You
"Yeah, but
just
you just
set
seem so
her
confident."
future husband up. Let me just tell you, because he's
Good,
got to fill them shoes.
good.
Hmm.
I got something for him too. I'm just saying. We're gonna have questions.
We know
We're
that.
gonna
Don't
have
put it on
questions.
recording, bro. Don't put it on recording.
Yes. Last question, and then we're done. We're
Yes.
gonna let this question breathe, Mo. You ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
After everything that you experienced, was it worth it?
Yes.
Oh.
Even though there are, like I talked about the one call that resonated with me,
Hmm.
there's some others, like I
Oh
said, there's
yeah.
one that I won't even talk about.
Hmm.
Um, I still loved what I did. I still think I made a difference in the world, even if it was just to that one family, that one person, that one. I think I did. I still, for me, did a lot of growth as a human being. And I still think that the job taught me a level of compassion that I would not have learned if I would have stayed a banker at Capital One. Um, so that
So
to me is what makes it worth it because I don't, I think sometimes it's scary to walk away from the job like law enforcement and view the world from the 20, well, I won't say the 10% that we deal with. I did not walk away from it with that viewpoint. I walked away from the world knowing that there's 90% of the people out there that aren't like that and that are good people. And while I'm cautious, I'm not one of these people who is foolish. I am cautious, but I'm cautiously optimistic when I'm dealing with people. And I think that it came from the good parts that I did have an opportunity to experience through the job and the the sad things that we saw in the world because it makes me realize that even people who are in, like you said, bad situations, it taught me that there's a person behind the situation a lot of times that goes deeper than drugs and alcohol and just chalk it up in that lost column. So I would do it again.
Yes. So far I'm still in it. So I guess that's a hard one for me to answer fully the way you did. My career has not gone the way I originally envisioned back in 2011. Right.
True.
I was going to be on the bomb team and I was going to be that detective sergeant so I could screw him over. I had big plans.
I see that.
My, my career has gone in different directions, but overall, yes. And now I find myself the hardest part is trying to filter out the good and the bad into something I can pass on and articulate to my kids and my family and people that I care about and try to explain and express why this person might not be a good person. You know what I mean? Like how do you explain what's going on or why, hey, this isn't as bad as you think it is. That kind of a thing where you filter those
Right.
moments down.
Yeah.
And also why when you walk into a room somewhere or you walk into a gas station or a grocery store and the hair stands up on the back of your neck, you just say, we got to go.
Yeah.
Why?
You
What's
trust
going
it.
on? Something's wrong. Something's off. We got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you articulate that? I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's, I think it's still one of those things though that it sounds to me like you'd still do it though.
Oh yeah. 100%. I'll give you
Yeah.
one story and then we're going to go because this
Tell
is
me.
where my brain went. We were driving back to home from the airport and I went to stop and get gas and it was off this one little beaten path and we were in Jersey and I go to pull into this gas station and there's like six pumps or whatever. And all six pumps had a car in front of it with the front door open and a driver in it. And they were all on their phone just scrolling. And when we pulled in, they all looked up like this. And I just went, "Hmm."
Boop.
Went to the next gas station.
Yep.
And my daughter's like, why didn't we get gas there? I was like, nah,
Too
something,
synchronized.
something's going on over there. I said, I don't know what it is. It might not even be bad. I think it is. But
I think it was.
all my little alarm bells said, no, we ain't doing that.
Nope. Nope. And
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know how you
trust them.
explain that. Yeah, I
You
don't know.
can't. I
Yeah,
think that comes with the level of experiences that we have had
yeah,
that you learned. Like we were this. I have one story, and I'll let us go. Me and my husband were talking, and him being a law enforcement officer, he goes, "I remember being on a traffic stop. This dude bails out and runs, and he goes, and I start to chase him, and he goes, and something like in my head said, 'Don't do it.'" And he
yeah.
said, I turned around and said, "Hillsborough, he took off on foot. You just know." I said, "There
There's
was a
some in
car one
there.
time
Mm-hmm.
I pulled over and it was before a lot of the area was built up that we were patrolling. It was when I had been fairly new back in early 2000. Pull the car over, it stops, and it was just in that moment, all of the hairs on the back of my neck, all the way down my back stood up. I had called the traffic stop in and I said, "Hillsborough," took off, and I just drove away because I was like, it was almost like, I was like, I feel like this is going to be bad.
Just that one.
Just that one. Nothing
Yeah.
came back
Yeah.
on the tag, nothing on it. And I was like, you get a
Mm,
pass tonight, sir.
yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. They're just, but I think having those experiences where you learn to trust your instincts, you can later on, that happens when it happens outside of those law enforcement situations. You
Mm-hmm.
go, nope, I'm gonna go to the
Yeah.
next gas station.
Mm. Mo, this was fun. Thank you.
This was a good one. I
That's
liked
it.
it.
I'll see you on the next one.
All right, sir. Thank you.